2017, the year Brexit broke. 2017 was the year when Britain, the world, and Brexit broke again. The hangovers of 2016 never ended. We went into the year with Trump, Brexit, the war in Syria, the refugee crisis, the NHS and prison turmoil, and we've ended the year with little improvement. But how did 2017 play out? January. The world was getting used to Trump's Twitter rants as he got inaugurated, a comedy at the time that would later become tiresome and even damaging to Trump. Sir Evan Rogers resigned as Britain's ambassador to the EU, and the government didn't really have a clue about what it wanted to achieve from Brexit. But at least the UK's Supreme Court made sure the government had to consult Parliament before triggering Article 50, right? I mean, it meant that democratic rule ran over autocratic rule, but made sure that the whole process was that ever bit more tedious and uncertain. Meanwhile, Trump was appointing his cabinet, at the same time censoring what questions he would and wouldn't answer from the press. May was comforting the president through holding his hand as he walked down some stairs. In the UK, the British Red Cross described the NHS situation as a humanitarian crisis, as Jeremy Hunt made efficiency savings. February will be remembered by the world as the month that Trump tried to evoke his Muslim ban until it got deemed unconstitutional. It will be remembered by Britain as the month Parliament voted in favour of enacting Article 50. Some Labour MPs voted against their constituents and against Brexit, defying the will of the people deliberately to undermine Corbyn because they believed him to be unelectable at the time. They voted on personal belief as well as public, playing a game with politics that put their personal autonomy as MPs into question, while the government was withholding information using their own autonomy to make a rather sparse Brexit bill. She promised Parliament a vote on the Brexit deal, but only allowed it yes or no. In this month, it seemed that parliamentary sovereignty and increased democracy, that for many was the reason for voting leave, now seemed betrayed as May withheld things from Parliament. The Labour Party were divided, hating Corbyn as they were unseated in the Copeland by-election. Therefore, it gave Theresa May free rein to do as she pleased. If only she knew then what would later happen. But the Remainers and Corbynistas among you will be thankful she didn't. March. 50 days of Trump. Steve Bannon was appointed the chief strategist. Trump accused Obama of tapping his phones, as he made a celebratory campaign trail as he was facing allegations of dealings with Russia. He even locked news outlets out of his press conference. But don't be distracted by America, because in the UK, Philip Hammond was making U-turns on national insurance contributions, and George Osborne became editor of the London Evening Standard while still being an MP, a massively annoying thing to do. The NHS admitted it didn't have enough money to function, and then the worst happened. 4 people die and at least 40 others are injured at a terrorist attack on Westminster Bridge. Then came the 29th of March, when Theresa May evoked Article 50, a hailed moment but one that took far too long to get to. In April, it didn't stop people marching against Brexit, as if the debate could somehow be redone. Sean Spicer, the president's press secretary in the US, compared Syria to Nazi Germany, but Trump sent the mother of all bombs on ISIS fighters in Afghanistan, a defiant, effective response, but also a frightening display of killing power that caused international tensions. France had their election going on, but May trumped it and called her own. It was assumed that May would walk it. Blue Britain, the end of Labour. Now we had Brexit, Trump, and in France, Le Pen was looming with her anti-globalist vote. May was facing backlash for calling an election, having said she wouldn't, and then not taking part in any of the TV debates. In France, Macron and Le Pen were fighting it out, but in the UK, Strong and Stable was pitted against a coalition of chaos and the homophobic Tim Farron. By May, the Tories made significant gains at local elections, but were investigated for electoral fraud in the 2015 election, which was the start of Theresa May's undoing. Macron became French president, proving that the far-right leaning politics was not the modern-day default. Tory austerity came into question during the election campaign. Meanwhile, in America, Trump fired the director of the FBI and was accused of collusion with the Russians to swing his election. The parties released their manifestos. Labour, an ambitious promise to spend more money, while the Tories bring up fox hunting and accuse the other side of having a magic money tree. Diane Abbott got her maths wrong. The Lib Dems, on the other hand, promised another referendum on leaving the EU. The Tories came up with the dementia tax, another unpicking of Theresa May's power, but then everything stopped, as Manchester Arena was attacked by terrorists. The terrorist threat level was raised to severe. June. We entered the month assuming votes towards UKIP would automatically go towards Theresa May. Corbyn had a fantastic campaign. May didn't. In the end, nobody won, and we ended up with a hung parliament. Theresa May no longer was strong and stable and seemed weak and wobbly. Corbyn was praised and reborn. The country was woken up to its forgotten corner where the DUP resides, as Theresa May had to join with them in order to have a majority in Parliament. Just as the public was scrambling around confused about the outcome of the election and future for Brexit, 71 people died in Grenfell. The tower burned, not just burning the building, but burning through the heart of the country, raising issues of social housing, safety, poverty, and making a weak Prime Minister seem even weaker by her lack of interaction with the community. An investigation was launched, although we've yet to hear from it, as if the enthusiasm the public and the politicians had that week burned as quickly as the fire itself. Tim Farron, rather inappropriately that day, resigned, and Nicola Sturgeon gave up on independence for Scotland. With Brexit and the election, the Queen's speech was stripped down, but Northern Ireland still got £1 billion in investment. That phrase from the election, the magic money tree, now made the Tories a laughingstock to the public. July. Trump met his best friend Putin, while Theresa May, rather embarrassingly, reached out to the Labour Party to help her govern and for policy ideas. As Brexit negotiations were now underway, the phrase "no deal is better than a bad deal" was the phrase being used. Boris said the EU can go whistle for the money, as figures like 100 billion were being spread about. Then Parliament went on recess. In Doctor Who, a female doctor was announced. As the Tories talked during the summer, parties' talk of a coup was in the radar, but fear plagued Parliament. Fear of losing an election, fear of taking on Brexit, and fear of being seen as a political opportunist in unstable times. The President once again controversially tweets, this time that trans people cannot be in the military. Anthony Scaramucci is removed as Communications Director 10 days after Trump appoints him, and the Chief of Staff is replaced by John Kelly. For Trump, his reality TV personality was evident in his presidency. It made it entertaining, but also meant that he was as much like a reality TV series winner as he was a reality TV series bully. August. North Korea made a statement saying it's considering missile strikes on the Andersen Air Force Base in Guam. President Trump said it would be met with fire and fury. The world became scared. His chief strategist, Steve Bannon, is fired. While in the UK, just like the government, the chimes of Big Ben fall silent for 4 years. September. The EU's chief negotiator said there has been no decisive progress made on Brexit. Labour wanted to stay in the customs union and single market but leave the EU. The Lib Dems wanted to reverse the process altogether. As Theresa May kept the media looking for news, Jacob Rees-Mogg was entertaining the media as a potential new Tory leader, only to be outed as anti-abortion due to his Catholic beliefs. The pay freeze for prison workers was lifted, although it was a small victory among the already deep cuts, and inflation rose to 2.9%. Among all the reminders of austerity, Theresa May made a speech about Brexit, offering to pay the EU money, but not saying how much, and assuring citizens' rights, but not offering clues on the Irish border. In fact, there was very little substance in the speech at all. The Labour Party conference took place amid anti-Semitism, Blairite divisions and Brexit divisions. Corbyn was stronger, but for them Brexit is still a bitter pill to swallow. October. The Tory party conference took place. Boris Johnson had to reassure his party that the cabinet was united behind Theresa May amid allegations of Tory infighting. Theresa May coughed her way through her speech as a P45 was handed to her and the set behind her was falling apart. It meant that once again with Brexit there was little policy, and with her performance there was little personality, but the Tories clung on to perseverance. A few days after, Theresa May was asked the question, would you vote for Brexit if the referendum was held today?
Well, I don't answer hypothetical questions, but
She didn't answer. A terrible miscalculation of what the public want from a Prime Minister. The negotiations reached deadlock again, with the EU declaring sufficient progress had not been made. No deal was promised again but not delivered. The rights of the EU citizens entered the table as bargaining chips again. Meanwhile, scandal to hit Hollywood that Harvey Weinstein and Kevin Spacey were outed for sexual harassment and sexual assault, which for Trump supporters was a bit of a relief to see the anti-Trump Hollywood taking a hit. November. Sir Michael Fallon resigned amid allegations of sexual harassment as the scandal hit Westminster. It brought into question what does and doesn't count as acceptable behaviour. It made the accusers seem like political opportunists, while the accused branded as sex pests. Paradise Papers revealed the corporate tax avoidance they committed. Again, Prince Harry announced his engagement to Meghan Markle. Australia voted in favour of gay marriage. Meanwhile, the Tories voted that animals can't feel pain, a rather stupid thing to do that would only make any political party less electable. Meanwhile, Donald Trump retweets a post from far-right group Britain First, a rather stupid thing to do that would only make him less electable in the next US election. Critics called it promoting Nazism and far-right terrorism, yet supporters called the tweet uncomfortable but a necessary truth. Amid backlash, the invite for a state visit next year is still open. Proof that the begging that's coming from economic fears in Brexit is leading us to betray the public mood. But that doesn't mean that everyone in the UK hates Trump, nor does it really matter. After all, he's just another leader of just another country to us. By December, phase 1 of the Brexit deal was reached. Then the forgotten DUP halted it, because Ireland was going to get a different deal from the rest of the UK. So the government had to go back, assuring $40 billion to the EU citizens' rights, and a guarantee that there will be no hard border between the UK and Ireland. Most people feel like she's given in, and to me, it certainly seems like we're trapped into paying this bill now and giving them the power, or there'll be a row between Ireland and the UK and maybe another election. David Davis faced criticism after saying no impact assessment was made on Brexit. Meanwhile, Philip Hammond said we'd pay the EU bill no matter what. So we're trapped in paying money to get out of the EU just to get access to a potential trading arrangement we don't know what the economic risk is of, and that might not necessarily help us control immigration. What's even more annoying is that it definitely means we keep EU law during a transition period, which the entire reason for the Leave vote in the first place was to have authority over our laws. It means the public have to wait longer to feel the benefit of Brexit, which means that either Brexit is going to be gradually watered down or the country is going to be in turmoil, probably both. Meanwhile, Donald Trump claims Jerusalem is the capital of Israel, angering Palestinians, And if you're wondering why I've been talking about him this whole time, it's because that's the guy we're going to have to trade with once Brexit is all done, which means we as a country are getting more and more defined by the EU and Trump and less defined by our own government, our own democracy, and most importantly, by our own people. So where has 2017 gotten us? Well, not very far in the UK. We've learned that there are no winners in our politics. May is now weak, Corbyn is not in charge, Trump is offending people, and the rest of the world laughs and pillages what it can from us while corporations corrupt and control our politics, and national services and the poor suffer. I've got no doubts that this will all continue into next year, but at least Brexit and Trump are making progress, even if that progress is very slow and doesn't always please everyone. After all, it's impossible to please everyone when Brexit began as a debate, not as a set of policies or negotiating positions. Bring on 2018, when we get a trade deal that doesn't benefit anyone. But what's your opinion of the year? Join in the debate below and subscribe.